This video will show how I installed an INNOVV K1 Dual camera system on my 2008 Goldwing. Here are the parts and pieces that come in the box. There is a SD card reader that you can plug into your computer so you can read the cards after they're unplugged from the digital video recorder. There are sticky pieces to stick things down, a cable holder to hold the cables in place at the digital video recorder, various angle brackets for mounting the cameras, a bracket to mount the digital video recorder itself, the front and rear cameras, the GPS unit, various cables for USB and GPS. There is a power converter with a fuse. There is a push button to lock files in so they cannot be written over, and an AVI cord. The converter has a inline fuse to protect it. In order to remove the seat on the Goldwing, you have to remove two long socket heads cap screws on each side of the seat. Once the screws are removed from both sides, you have to pull the back of the seat out from under the backrest and pull up on the rear of the seat in order to get it loose. Since my seat is a heated seat, there's an additional connector near the rear of the seat that you have to disconnect in order to get the seat off. I had originally planned to put the power converter at this point under the seat, but since I planned to put the DVR in the trunk, the USB cable from the power converter was too short, so I decided to put the power converter in the trunk as well. In order to put the power converter in the trunk, I had to lengthen the wires going down to the fuse block so that they would be long enough to reach, so I had to cut off the fuse. Since the accessory terminals on the Goldwing is fused at 5 amps, I decided to connect the red and yellow wires both together to go to the accessory point instead of connecting to the battery. Here you can see the wire routing for the power converter. You can see the yellow and red wires are both connected together to go down to the accessory terminals. The fuse box with the accessory terminals are behind the left-hand side cover, which has to be pried off. Next, you have to remove the cover from the fuse box to expose the accessory terminals. The top terminal with the red wire is the switched accessory voltage. The terminal below that is a ground for the switched accessories. I had to cut the inline fuse holder off in order to lengthen the wire, so now I have to connect it back on the end before I connect it to the accessory terminals. I was able to put the inline fuse holder in a little cubby hole right in front of the fuses, and it's nice and out of the way. Now I just have to replace the fuse holder cover. The rear camera installation was easier than the front one, so I decided to install that one first. I plan to mount the rear camera on the license plate bracket using one of the right angle brackets supplied. In order to remove the rear piece that has the license plate holder, you have to remove 4 socket head screws. I first mounted the rear camera to the bracket using a screw, block washer, and flat washer that was supplied with the kit. Next, I removed the license plate from the bracket. I would use this flat spot to make a hole for the camera cable to pass through. Nine 16ths of an inch hole saw. After the hole is drilled, you need to take a knife blade and remove any sharp edges from around the hole. I decided to use a separate screw from the license plate to hold the camera on the bracket. I had to make a hole in the license plate frame to clear the screw for the bracket. Route the camera cable through the hole to go under the trunk. I routed my camera wire along with my trailer hitch wires up to the bottom of the trunk. I threaded a fish wire underneath the trunk in order to pull the camera cable back to the front side of the trunk. I wanted to mount the front camera behind the windshield somewhere so that I could try to pick up communications on the CB from other motorcycles in the group. There was no easy place at the top of the dashboard to mount a camera, and mounting it lower down would block the view of my instrument. I thought about using a clamp on the inside of the windshield to clamp it on, but none of the clamps I found were sufficient to keep it from vibrating down on big bumps. Next, I thought about mounting it on the handlebars, but as you can see, the view from the bars is too low to see over the dash. So I thought about mounting it on a bar, but I was afraid the bar would create too much vibration. I had a large sheet of 1/4-inch ABS plastic, so I decided to make my own bracket for the front and tape it to the bottom of the dash. In order to mount the camera to the ABS bracket, I had 2 right-angle metal brackets that are made for large picture frames. The holes in the bracket were not large enough for the 1/4-20 screws needed to mount the cameras, so I had to drill the holes out to a larger size. I cut out the ABS to the size I needed and made 2 holes for the camera brackets as well as a hole for the camera cable to pass through. Here's the front camera mounted to the ABS bracket that I made. Once installed, the camera can be tilted to the correct angle to look out the front. I decided to use Scotch extremely strong tape to mount the bracket to the bottom side of the dash. This tape will hold up to 30 pounds and is not affected by extreme hot or cold temperatures. Here's the bracket taped to the underside of the dashboard, showing the wire routing back behind the speakers in the grille. Since the GPS unit is not weatherproof because of the speaker, I decided to mount it in the left-hand glove box. I had originally planned to mount the push button on this bracket on the handlebars, but the wire was too short, so I had to end up mounting it much lower down at this location. Here's the location where I mounted the DVR, just below the top lip of the trunk.